Breaking news out of Washington: Donald Trump is reportedly furious tonight as America's defense industry is rocked by a stunning blow. In a move few saw coming, Canada has pulled billions in fighter jet orders away from United States manufacturers, leaving the Pentagon scrambling to contain the fallout. The skies over North America aren't just clouded with uncertainty, they're rattled by a decision that could reshape the balance of military power. From Detroit to Dallas, the shock is reverberating. One of America's closest allies has taken a step that strikes at the very core of United States military dominance, and the aftershocks are only beginning to be felt. When Donald Trump campaigned on his promise of America first, the message was crystal clear. United States jobs would be protected, allies would rely on American strength, and the defense industry would remain the undisputed backbone of global security. Fighter jets in particular were not just contracts. They were symbols of that promise. But Canada's move shatters that narrative. Instead of doubling down on Washington's defense giants, Ottawa has taken its business elsewhere, openly questioning whether the United States is still a reliable partner. For Trump and his supporters, this isn't just a lost contract, it's a humiliating contradiction. A reminder that even close allies may be turning their backs on America's defense pledges. The Pentagon, blindsided by the announcement, now faces an uncomfortable truth. If Canada can walk away, what's stopping other allies from rethinking their commitments? The stakes are enormous, not only for United States prestige, but for the thousands of workers and families who depend on this industry to survive. And the shockwaves don't stop at the policy level. They're already being felt on the ground. The fallout from Canada's decision isn't confined to the halls of the Pentagon. It's spreading across the country like a shockwave. In Fort Worth, Texas, where Lockheed Martin's massive assembly lines churn out advanced fighter jets, workers are already bracing for cutbacks. Union leaders warn that layoffs could hit within months if replacement contracts don't materialize. In St. Louis, Missouri, another aerospace hub, suppliers that provide critical components for these jets are staring at empty order books. For small businesses that depend on defense deals, even a short disruption can mean shuttered doors. Further north in Detroit, a city that has fought hard to reinvent itself after decades of economic decline, the prospect of losing defense-related automotive contracts feels like déjà vu. Factories that recently secured work producing parts for military aircraft now face uncertainty once again. And in Seattle, home to Boeing's vast aerospace network, the reverberations are just beginning. Thousands of engineers and technicians tied to United States defense projects worry about what comes next if more allies follow Canada's lead. This isn't just about one contract being canceled. It's about entire communities, schools, diners, churches, and neighborhoods that rely on the stability of America's defense dollars. Each city tells the same story. The promises of security and prosperity are colliding with a harsh new reality. But the geographic spread is only part of the picture. The deeper wound lies in the economy itself, where numbers tell a grim story of jobs on the line and industries hanging by a thread. Behind every defense contract lies an ecosystem of workers, suppliers, and secondary industries that keep the gears turning. With Canada's withdrawal, that ecosystem is suddenly under siege. Estimates suggest that up to 20,000 American jobs could be at risk if the lost orders aren't replaced. And that's just the immediate figure. The real damage runs much deeper. Take the supply chain. From steel mills in Pennsylvania to electronics manufacturers in Arizona, entire sectors depend on steady demand from defense projects. A single canceled contract doesn't just hit the factories producing the planes, it ripples outward, cutting into small subcontractors who provide raw materials, software systems, and specialized components. Many of these companies operate on razor-thin margins, meaning even a temporary disruption can send them into bankruptcy. Then there are the ripple effects on local economies. When defense workers lose their jobs, it's not just their families who suffer. Restaurants near factories see fewer customers. Schools struggle with shrinking tax bases. Small-town banks, car dealerships, and grocery stores all feel the pressure when steady paychecks suddenly vanish. The numbers paint a stark picture, but the human side is even more striking. One machinist from Fort Worth summed it up bluntly. I gave 30 years of my life building planes for this country. Now I'm being told those jobs might not matter anymore? It feels like betrayal. For workers like him, this isn't just about contracts on paper. It's about livelihoods, dignity, and the sense of pride that comes from building the very planes that symbolize America's power. But the economic blow is only half the story. What makes this loss devastating is the symbolism behind it. The idea that America's position as the world's defense leader is no longer guaranteed. Fighter jets are more than machines of war. They're flying symbols of dominance, engineering genius, and the projection of American power across the globe. For decades, allies buying American-made jets wasn't just about defense contracts. It was about aligning themselves with the world's superpower. That's what makes Canada's move so staggering. This isn't just the loss of money or jobs, it's the erosion of an image carefully built over generations. A neighbor, a NATO partner, a country that has flown shoulder to shoulder with the United States in countless missions is now signaling doubt in America's reliability. It's a symbolic fracture in an alliance that once seemed unshakable. Inside the Pentagon, officials are said to be reeling. The Department of Defense wasn't just caught off guard, it was embarrassed. Allies rejecting American jets is a headline that cuts deeper than spreadsheets and balance sheets. It's a narrative shift, from American supremacy to American vulnerability. And symbolism really matters. Fighter jets have long been America's calling card, proof that American innovation and might were unmatched. Now, with even close partners questioning that assumption, Washington faces a bruising psychological defeat. It's a reminder that prestige, once lost, is not easily regained. But what makes this story even more unsettling is that Canada's decision may only be the beginning. Because when one ally turns away, others start to ask the same questions, and the domino effect can spread faster than anyone expects. Canada's defection has set off alarm bells far beyond Washington. Across Europe, Asia, and the Middle East, governments are watching closely. Not just the decision itself, but what it signals about America's long-term reliability. In Europe, murmurs are already circulating. Countries like Germany and France have been building their own advanced fighter programs, and Canada's move could embolden them. If even NATO's closest partners start questioning U.S. products, why wouldn't others consider going European? It's not just about planes, it's about autonomy, independence, and reducing dependence on Washington. In Asia, the stakes are even higher. Nations that rely on U.S. defense guarantees to counter rising threats from China are now asking tough questions. If one ally can peel away, what happens if others follow? For countries like Japan and South Korea, where every purchase is both military and political, a shift away from U.S. hardware could redraw the security map of the Pacific. And in the Middle East, where arms contracts are as much about alliances as they are about combat, Canada's rejection lands like a warning shot. Countries flush with oil wealth have long leaned on U.S. fighters to cement ties with Washington. But now, rivals like Russia and China see an opening, a chance to pitch their own aircraft as cheaper, faster alternatives. The danger isn't just losing one contract. It's the potential for a chain reaction, where one defection triggers another and another, until the perception of U.S. supremacy is eroded piece by piece. Allies might not abandon America outright, but even diversifying purchases would chip away at the Pentagon's influence. And this global uncertainty feeds back into something even more personal: the everyday lives of Americans who now find themselves caught in the middle of a storm they didn't create. Behind every headline about billion-dollar contracts are families who feel the consequences in real time. In Fort Worth, a father of three who has spent his entire career on the assembly line building fighter jets now wonders if he'll be able to put his kids through college. His story is echoed in Detroit, where a mother who transitioned from the auto industry into defense manufacturing fears her hard-earned stability may collapse overnight. These aren't just statistics. They're lunch pails left sitting in lockers, mortgages that suddenly feel impossible, and children asking their parents why everyone seems so worried. In towns where a single defense plant employs thousands, the ripple effect reaches every corner, from the diner where workers grab breakfast before their shift, to the schools relying on local tax dollars, to the churches where families gather on Sundays praying for stability. For decades, the defense industry was more than a paycheck. It was a source of pride. Workers didn't just assemble parts. They built symbols of America's global leadership. To many, it felt like serving the country without wearing the uniform. Now, with contracts slipping away, that pride is turning into anxiety. and in some cases, anger. One retired technician put it bluntly, "We poured our lives into this work because we believed America would always stand by its own." Watching allies walk away, it feels like betrayal, not just from them, but from Washington itself. The emotional weight transforms what could have been just another trade dispute into something far heavier. It's no longer about planes and parts. It's about loyalty, security, and the identity of entire communities. But to grasp how truly historic this moment feels, we need to step back and see it in the wider arc of America's legacy, a story that stretches back nearly a century. To understand the full scope of this rupture, you have to look back at America's legacy. During World War II, the United States earned the title of the Arsenal of Democracy. Factories from coast to coast worked around the clock, not just building weapons for American troops, but supplying allies across the globe. That industrial might became the foundation of U.S. power, proof that America could outbuild, out-innovate, and outlast any rival. For decades after, that reputation never wavered. From the Cold War to the Gulf War, U.S. defense industries weren't just a backbone of national security, they were a global standard. To buy American wasn't simply a transaction, it was a declaration of allegiance to the world's superpower. Fighter jets, in particular, became emblems of that dominance, streaking across skies as both military machines and political statements. But Canada's decision signals something unthinkable: cracks in that legacy. A close ally rejecting U.S. defense contracts suggests that the arsenal of democracy may no longer be seen as automatic, reliable, or unrivaled. Instead of leading by default, Washington now faces competition, and worse, doubt. For many historians, this feels like a turning point. Just as empires of the past saw their influence fade not through sudden collapse but through gradual erosion, some fear America may be entering that same phase, losing prestige one contract, one ally, one decision at a time. And that's why this moment resonates far beyond economics. It speaks to America's very role in the world, and whether that role is being rewritten right before our eyes. Unless Washington recalibrates quickly, the shockwaves we're seeing today may be just the beginning. Allies are watching, rivals are waiting, and America's defense industry, once the unchallenged arsenal of democracy, now stands at a crossroads. This is far from over. Thank you for watching. If you found this video helpful, please consider subscribing for more content like this. Until next time, stay inspired.